What's up, you guys? How is everybody? If you are new to my channel, welcome. My name is Corey. I'm a violinist. As you can see, my violin is quite precariously placed there so that you would know I'm a violinist. It has to be in every shot. I'm calling this video 5 things every beginner violinist needs to know. I recently saw a similar video, and while I agree with a lot of what she said, of course I have my own opinions and ideas about the violin that I wanted to make one about my 5 things that I think every beginner violinist needs to know. The first thing I would start with is that the violin is a very difficult instrument to learn. And I think that's something that you have to be honest with yourself when you're deciding to learn to play the violin. So many people think they can pick it up and it's going to be easy for them. But I promise you, even if it's pretty easy in the beginning, it gets harder very quickly. And I just want you to be very honest with yourself about that. It's not going to take you a year to learn it. It's going to take you a minimum of 5 to be happy with the sound that you're playing. It's something so important in the beginning to give yourself grace about and to know that you're not going to sound amazing and be okay with that. I think that's why it's so much easier for young children to learn the violin, is that they kind of don't care if they suck or don't sound very good because they're just like, whatever. But when you're older, we're much more like self-critical. So be aware of that and be gentle on yourself as you're learning the violin, and take out that, oh, I don't sound good. Oh, no, don't say any of that. Just let yourself play. It's not going to sound great, but be okay with that. Kind of a few reasons the violin is one of the most difficult instruments to learn is your left hand and your right hand are doing 2 completely different things, like literally completely different. So your left hand is playing the notes, right? But if they're not in the exact perfect place every single time, you're completely out of tune. And people just don't like listening to an out of tune violinist. It's just not pleasant for anybody. So you're first of all learning to make sure that your notes are perfectly in tune so they're beautiful. So there's no frets, so it's tapes and your ear and just learning that muscle memory until you can take those tapes off and just play. And then of course you have to add on that. We're gonna shift to different positions and you have to learn every single one of those positions, the muscle memory of that and the sound of them, then vibrato, then playing fast, playing slow, all that stuff is just the left hand in and of itself. Then you have the right hand, and I actually think the bow hand, the right hand is actually the hardest, because if you don't get the exact perfect weight on the bow arm, it's going to either squeak or crunch or sound bad, playing multiple strings. Just so many things happen with the right hand, and it's kind of overlooked because we all obviously immediately focus on the left hand, but the right hand is the harder of the 2 things to learn. Playing gently, playing beautifully, playing slowly, playing fast, playing slurring, just all the different things that the right hand has to do makes it the harder of the 2, I think. My second thing I think that every beginner violinist needs to know is that it's extremely vital to learn the correct technique from the beginning. So you're laying your foundation, and if your foundation is set beautifully, it's gonna be so much easier to progress quicker. But a lot of times what I see is we're too concerned about playing and playing our favorite songs and all the fun stuff we want to do, that the structure never gets set up. So like I was saying, the bow is the hardest thing to learn, and learning the correct technique of how to move the bow from the very beginning can help so much more later, and you'll honestly be moving so much faster if you just get that started from the very beginning. So learning the correct technique is extremely important. The third thing I would say that every beginner violinist needs to know is it's so important to create a practice routine and structure and a time at which you practice, so that it's kind of something that stays consistent and you know exactly when it happens. So I love the book Atomic Habits, and he talks about attaching new habits to old habits that you have already. So one of my students' parents did this thing that was so brilliant, where every single day after dinner, her son would go and practice. That's just what he did. And at first, of course, she had to remind him every single time, go get your violin, you're done eating, go practice. You're done eating, every single day. It was exactly the same, to where it became such a habit for him. She didn't even have to remind him anymore. He would get it from the table and go get his violin and practice. It just became habit. And I think that is the most important thing to do, is to create a habit for yourself where you know every single day after dinner, I practice. It's just what happens. For me, I put my baby down for his nap, I go practice. Creating that schedule for myself has really, really helped me to be consistent with my practice and to be just ready for it. It's just gonna happen. After I put my baby down, I practice. Done. If you need help creating a practice routine, I do have a video all about how to practice and creating your practice routines, even how to practice scales. I will link those all in the description if you want to look at any of those to help you kind of create that practice routine and how to practice. Okay, the fourth thing, don't just buy the cheapest violin you can find. Trust me, I bought a $50 violin off of Amazon before, and it was the worst decision I ever made. Luckily, I'm a violinist. Like, I know how to play, I know how to tune, I know how to do all the things. It literally came completely disassembled to where I had to put the bridge on, I had to tighten the strings, I had to do all the things. And if I wasn't a violinist, how the heck am I supposed to know how to do that? I'm so confused to why these companies do that. But anyways, get a nice violin. Be prepared that you should be spending for a beginner violin somewhere between $300 to, I would say, maybe $800. Somewhere in that price range is what you're going to be spending. So be prepared for that. That's your budget. If you go through a violin shop, a lot of times you can rent. So look up and see if maybe there's a violin shop in your local area where you can just rent a violin. I know there's a few violin shops online that you can rent from. I'll put some in the description box. I'll put my favorite violin in the description box. So you have a lot of options. I have a video where I tried a few different beginner violins. You can check that out too if that's helpful. But don't just buy a cheap violin off of Amazon. It will hurt you in the long run. They sound terrible. They're ridiculously hard to tune. They're difficult to play, actually, even. A lot of times the bow is terrible. Just be prepared to invest a tiny bit more into a beginner violin, and it will make a huge difference in the long run, like game changer. The fifth and final thing is that it is possible to learn the violin online, believe it or not. A few months ago, thought it was ridiculous to learn the violin online. Did not recommend it. Told everybody not to learn the violin online, to get a teacher, all the things. I have since been schooled and met some people who learned the violin online and who are doing incredible. Find a course online that you can follow. Having something to follow is so helpful. I unfortunately don't have one, or I would be pumping it right now, but maybe one day. If you're watching this video in a few years, maybe look in the description box and maybe I have one now. I don't know. Just know you're gonna have to be extremely self-motivated to do that. And if you want help, like for instance, teachers like me, I offer one-off lessons. If you have a question, I'm happy to answer it for you. Put it in the description box, anything. There's so many ways to learn online where you're not isolated and all by yourself. I do still highly recommend getting a teacher, finding one online, finding one in your area, whatever it might be. But just know that there are other options and you can learn online. I've seen it happen, and I've seen it happen quite successfully. Anyways, those are my 5 things that every beginner violinist should know. I don't want these to be discouraging. I want these to actually be encouraging, to know what to expect as you're learning and you're not making up false things in your mind about how the violin's going to be. Like, I want to be honest and create a clear picture of what your learning process could look like. Please feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions. I'm more than happy to answer any you have. Comment down below, send me an email, whatever it is. I'm more than happy to help you as much as I possibly can. That's what I'm here for. If you are learning the violin and you have not yet subscribed to my channel, do that now and come be part of our little violin community here. All right, you guys, I hope this was helpful, and I cannot wait to see you in my next video and chat with you in the comments. Bye.